Hey everyone, so the 2010 NHL entry draft was a pretty deep draft. There were a lot of mistakes made in the first round, obviously every draft there is, but it was a really deep draft, and I'm going to redraft that draft right here at Talkin' Habs today, and we're going to go over everybody and decide who goes where. I'm going to take players that were drafted in later rounds because it's been 10 years. We know what the players are like, so we can definitely see that these guys that are drafted here can be drafted higher up. Brendan Gallagher drafted in the 5th round is an example of that. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do that right now. So first dilemma is the first two picks. Edmonton took Taylor Hall first overall, and Boston took Tyler Seguin second overall. I think it was 2 or 3 years that Seguin was with Boston. I could be wrong. It might have been a little longer, but they weren't getting along, and they weren't really matched up well because Tyler Seguin, I believe the story was that he likes the nightlife, and it didn't fit in with how the Bruins wanted him to be, so they traded him to Dallas, and I think that's how the trade happened. So would Boston, in a redraft, take Tyler Seguin? I don't think so. But here's the point. Taylor Hall played about 120 games less than Tyler Seguin, and if you prorate his points, his average points through his career, if you prorate those 120 games, he comes out about 40 or 50 points higher than Seguin. So based on that, I'm leaving Taylor Hall in first. So Taylor Hall stays in first place, the first pick. I'm probably the only one doing that, but I think Taylor Hall might be the better player, more offensive production because I guess it was injuries. Maybe he's more injury prone. You could say that too, but I think he puts up more points, so I'm leaving him at first. Second overall, I don't think Boston redrafts Seguin, so I'm not giving him Seguin. I'm giving him Mark Stone. Makes sense. Stone seems more like a Boston Bruins player, and since we're doing a redraft, you can match them up, and I think that would be good. He's definitely a solid. He's a right winger. Stone, I think he's a right winger. Plays well for Ottawa. He's in Vegas now, doing really well. That's the kind of guy Boston could use. Would have looked for if they knew how his career would have turned out, I imagine. So I'm babbling away to say Mark Stone, but I'm giving you Mark Stone. Next up, Tyler Seguin falls down to Florida. Eric Goodbranson is definitely was the first defenseman. He's had a long career. I think he's still playing. Just wasn't a third overall pick quality defenseman. Under 100 points in 500 and some odd games, I think. So I think he drops right out of the first round. I don't think Goodbranson would be redraft the first round pick. Tyler Seguin goes to Florida. I think Tyler Seguin in Florida would have been a good fit with that offense. Florida always could use more offense, especially back in those days. So, yeah, I think Seguin goes there. Next up, Columbus Blue Jackets drafted Ryan Johansson, a center, and I think they go with somebody else. St. Louis drafted Tarasenko over here. I think Tarasenko would have gone higher, and I think he goes here. So Tarasenko to the Blue Jackets. Next up, New York Islanders took Nino Niederreiter. I don't think Niederreiter was a 5th overall pick. I think he goes in the first round. I just don't think he went 5th overall. So I am going to say the next best guy for the Islanders is Evgeny Kuznetsov. Kuznetsov, who was drafted here 26th, I think, or 27th. I think he goes up higher. I know I'm saying a lot. I'm saying a lot. So Kuznetsov, I think he goes 5th. Good solid player in Washington, can put up the points, and I think he'd do well with the Islanders. Next up is Tampa Bay. They took Brett Connolly. He took a few years, Brett Connolly. In the last couple of seasons, he started to do well. He had a so-so season points-wise this season, and he's in Florida, and I think Brett Connolly is kind of a Florida-type player. I don't think Tampa Bay takes him again, and I think it's Ryan Johansson, good, talented center. I think that's who goes to Tampa Bay. So Johansson drops 2. and he goes to Tampa Bay. And Brett Connolly goes back into the mix. Next up, Carolina with Jeff Skinner. I really, for some reason, I felt that that's the only one I've left in the same spot. I think they'd still pick Jeff Skinner. So I'm putting Skinner here. I think I might take some flack on that, but it's a feeling, so I went with it. Next up, the Atlanta Thrashers. I don't know what the last year was the Thrashers, but it must have been one of the last seasons. Alex Burmistrov they took. I don't think Burmistrov makes it through the first round, and I think they go in a different direction and take the first goalie of the draft, and that one is going to be Freddy Anderson. I think Anderson was the best goalie that I saw in this draft. I think he'd be the first one that was drafted on a redraft, and I think Anderson goes in the top 10. And he goes to Atlanta, who, if I remember, Atlanta pretty much always needed everything. Didn't matter what it was, they needed that position, somebody. So I think that's where it goes. Next up, 9. Minnesota took Michael Granlund, center. I think Minnesota goes the other way here. Minnesota always, I think in the day they needed some defense, if I remember correctly. So I'm going with I think the best defenseman in this draft is Cam Fowler. I think you can make an argument for John Klingberg, but I think it's going to be Cam Fowler to Minnesota. So Cam Fowler to Minnesota. Next up, and this one pains me a lot. I did it anyway. New York Rangers, 10th overall. They took Dylan McElrath, who defenseman didn't do anything. Maybe played a game or two. Didn't do anything. This is where I think we lose a guy from the 5th round that we took, and I think they take Brendan Gallagher. I think on a redraft, I think Gallagher is a New York Rangers type of player. He's he doesn't have the size, but he's that feisty, hard-nosed, never say die kind of guy, and I think that's for me with that edge. You know, he plays with that edge, and I think that fits for the Rangers. I think the Rangers picked Gallagher. Next up, Dallas took goalie Jack Campbell, who turned out to be basically a backup. He's backing up in Toronto right now. So I don't think he goes there. I don't think he makes the first round. Campbell, I think they go with right winger Tyler Toffoli, who was, I think, drafted in the 3rd round. So I think Dallas gets Toffoli. Good player, 300 points so far in his career. Montreal has been rumored to be after him for a long time, and well, we didn't get him, and I think Dallas gets him here in 2010. Next up, Anaheim, who took Cam Fowler, but Cam Fowler has been given to another team, so he's not available. I think they still want a defenseman, and I think it's the next guy, like I said, and that's John Klingberg. Oh, it's not coming out. Klingberg. So I think John Klingberg goes to Anaheim and not to Dallas. And I think it makes sense. Good, solid defenseman can move the puck a bit and put up some points. And I think he deserves to be moved up. I don't know where he was in this draft, but I think in a later round. And I'm just going to get, I want to get a drink, but I don't know where my video went. I'll be right back. Yeah, that's better. Now I can talk again. Okay, so Klingberg goes to Anaheim, so that takes up the first 12. Next up, number 13, lucky 13, Phoenix. They took Brandon Gormley, a defenseman. Love the name Gormley. I don't know something about it. Just he wasn't a very good defenseman, if I remember. I don't know if he played very much at all in the league. So I'm replacing him, obviously, with a guy that I don't know if I've always, but when I'm doing this anyway, I kind of felt that that's where he belonged, and that's Jaden Schwartz. I think he moves up one, and St. Louis doesn't get Schwartz, and Phoenix does. I think Schwartz is the kind of player that Phoenix likes. Honestly, I don't know a lot about him, but it's one of those gut things. That's what that's how it is. Next up, where Jaden Schwartz had been picked by St. Louis. I think they take Brock Nelson, who was picked down here by the Islanders. I think Nelson moves up in this. Definitely moves up in this redraft, and I think he goes to St. Louis. I think St. Louis was looking for scoring with Schwartz and Tarasenko, and I think that works for them. I like Nelson. Not the biggest scorer, but I like the guy. Hard worker. Next up, LA took Derek Forbert, a defenseman. So I think in a redraft they go with another defenseman, and that's the next best guy up in this draft, in my opinion, and that's Justin Falk. Falk, long career with Carolina, can move the puck, can score some points, and yeah, tough guy too. He can fight if you need, and I think he'd go there. Next up, St. Louis took Vlad Tarasenko. Tarasenko, I have him with Columbus, so he's not available. So next up is going to be, I think they're looking for scoring, and they want some really good, solid guys, and this guy is. He went to, not in this round, to Minnesota, and I'm stealing him away, and that's Jason Zucker. I mean, he's a guy, look, on Minnesota, he's getting to 40-odd points. I think in St. Louis he can do better, and I think they're looking for that type of scoring in that they were looking for that, and Jason Zucker fits the bill. So Jason Zucker to St. Louis. Next up, Colorado took Joey Hishon, center who did nothing. So we're replacing him with another center who was chosen here by Minnesota. Minnesota's losing everybody, and I am going to give, what's his name? Michael Granlund. That's funny. So Michael Granlund, good solid center. Got a decent amount of points, so he can score. I don't know a ton about him, but I think he'd do well with Colorado. Next up, Nashville. Austin Watson, who played, I think, I think he's still playing even, like 300 games, but very low points, like a third or fourth liner, probably fourth liner. So I'm replacing him. I've seen people leave him at the end of the round, but I'm not. I'm replacing him completely, and I think this guy actually fits in well with Nashville. Or something tells me that Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes, who was drafted, I believe, as a right wing, and I believe is playing as a center right now. And when he was with the Winnipeg, was it Winnipeg? And I think he'd fit well with Nashville. Kind of player again. I just see, if you think, when I was thinking about it, Nashville did hit me as the right spot for him. So Nashville gets Kevin Hayes. Next up, Florida had Nick Bjugstad. Nick Bjugstad, a center. I'm changing that. I leave Bjugstad in here, but not there. I think they go for another center. Charlie Coyle, who I do believe went to Minnesota, no, San Jose originally. And, yeah, he's a good, solid center. I think he should have gone a little higher. And to me, Florida fits the bill for him. Next up was Pittsburgh with Bill Bennett, who I believe did nothing, a right winger. And this is where Nino Niederreiter drops to. I think Niederreiter is the kind of player that would have done well there. And that would have been, I think that's more likely where he should have been drafted. Not in the top 10, but in the somewhere around 20. And that's 20. So there you go. No, that's 21. I think. No, that's 20. Okay, whatever it is. Next up, Detroit. Detroit took Riley Sheehan, a center, where I still leave Sheehan in later, but I don't think they do that. I think he played for Detroit, but he wasn't drafted. I don't know if he was drafted originally by Detroit, but not here, later round, and I think they take Peter Mrazek, a goalie. Currently with Carolina. I think that's where Mrazek goes. I believe I only have 2 goalies in this draft, and he is the second one. Decent numbers. I mean, he's a decent goalie. I don't really like the guy because I think he gets a little... I've seen him get really emotional, and he plays for Carolina. It's not my favorite team. And, yeah, but I think he gets drafted here. And to me, that makes sense that he goes to Detroit because he did play in Detroit. Next up is Montreal. Montreal drafted 6'7" Jared Tenorti. They wanted a big, tough defenseman, and that's why they drafted Tenorti, but they did not get that with Tenorti. He didn't have the foot speed, and to me, I didn't find him as tough as we were hoping. So anyway, I think they go for another defenseman, but this time a really tough defenseman, not as tall. And oddly enough, I was looking it over, and I go with Radko Gudas, because I think Gudas actually answers the bill. He's tough. I think he blocks a lot of shots. There's one of the stats I had him in the hockey pools. There's something that he's either, I don't think he takes a lot of shots. It's blocks a lot of shots, I think. Anyways, he's a tough guy, and I think Montreal was really looking for a tough guy. He's, I think, only 6 feet, maybe 6'1", but I think legitimately goes there. And so I took Radko Gudas, who I don't even think I took him from a different round. But I think Radko Gudas fits the bill for what Montreal was looking for. So I know I'm going to take a beating on that one, but that's my pick. Next up, Buffalo. Buffalo had Mark Pysyk, who I think Pysyk is still playing. Not big numbers or anything, so I think they go in a different direction. And I think they take center Nick Bjugstad. The Florida bypassed here. Bjugstad had decent numbers, and I don't know a lot about him, honestly, so maybe it's a mistake. But based on his numbers, I thought Bjugstad should go there. That's my only reasoning. Next up, Chicago, who had taken Kevin Hayes originally, right wing. I think Kalle Järnkrok. He's a decent, solid center with decent size. I'm not sure where he's playing now. I think he legitimately goes here. And I don't think I think he was taken in the second round, but I think Järnkrok, maybe he was up here somewhere. He legitimately goes there to Chicago. And for some reason, it's another one of those guys that when I say his name, Chicago actually makes sense for me for some reason. I don't know what the criteria are in my brain to make that connection, but that's what I'm going with. Next up, Florida took Quinton Howden. Quinton Howden, a center, who I don't even know if he played at all. And, he didn't do much if he played at all. And Florida, I kind of see Brett Connolly there. He's there now. And I know he was better in Washington, but I think they would go for him then. So up here, Quinton Howden. So I think I'm going with Connolly. Brett Connolly. So, you didn't have to go through 2-3 teams to get there. Yeah, he's there right away. Next up, Washington, who had taken is Evgeny Kuznetsov, who I put him in 5th overall. So they definitely have to take somebody else. I think they go for a guy with a really cool name. And hang on, my dog's going to bark. Yeah, she just knew that I needed a drink. So, I'm putting Connolly to Florida. Next up, Kuznetsov. I think I was already there. How are we replacing Kuznetsov? That's it. A guy with a really cool name. I think he went to San Jose originally, and I don't know if it was a later round. I think it was a later round. Jonas Donskoy. Donskoy, really hard worker. I think he can play top 9. He's a top 9 forward, really hard worker. I think he would have done well in Washington. I think he would have done better than I think he'd had more points. Next up is Phoenix. Mark Visentin was a goalie. I think he played 1 game. That's it. Never heard of him again. I think Mark Visentin gets a guy who's sort of coming around now in the last couple of seasons, and that is Brian Rust from, I believe, am I right, Pittsburgh? Brian Rust, who's a pretty decent forward. What is he? A right wing. I think the last 2.5 seasons, something like that, Brian Rust is starting to come around to be a pretty good forward. And I think they pick him, Phoenix. Phoenix could use the offense, and that's where it goes. Next up, San Jose, who had taken Charlie Coyle. I think they're going to take, I think Riley Sheehan stays in just by numbers. I don't know a lot about him, but I looked at numbers, and I just think Sheehan stays in and goes to San Jose. And that's my only reasoning. That's it. Next up, Anaheim, who took Emerson Edom, who was very disappointing with them, and I think he went to Vancouver and just didn't do that much. And I think Anaheim redrafts and takes this guy's a useful guy. I think he's a top 9. He can play on any line where you need him. He makes me think of Paul Byron, I guess. That's Zach Hyman, who was in Toronto for a lot of years. I don't like Toronto, but pretty solid guy. Went to Ottawa, did pretty good. Not a top guy, but I mean, you're drafting, that's 29th. You're not going to get an elite player there. But you get a third or fourth line player, and that's Zach Hyman. I think he would have done okay in Anaheim. And that's why I gave him to him. Next up, New York Islanders have taken Brock Nelson, who I had put way higher. Somewhere there he is. And he was a center. I think they're going for a right wing. Next guy, I was struggling here to say Philip Grubauer. Goalie, do I want to put a third goalie? I really don't know if a third goalie would have gotten drafted. I think Grubauer would have gone high in the second round. And I put Jesper Fast, who's with the Rangers, I think. I think you pronounce it Fast. He goes very fast. Jesper Fast, pretty decent forward, got decent numbers, not great or anything, but he's a guy that you can have on your third and fourth line. And, I think he goes there. He's a right winger. So there you go. I redrafted the first round of the 2010 entry draft. First time I've done a redraft. Hopefully it went well. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And while you're on the way down there to do that, let me know. You're going to make the comments. Let me know in the comment section. What do you think of my redraft? Anywhere. What do you think of me leaving Taylor Hall in first overall? And what do you think of in general? What do you think of my Gudis for Montreal for the defenseman? And I'd love to hear that in the comment section. I read all my comments, and that's right down there. And while you're on the way down there, you just subscribe, ring the notifications bell if you haven't already. It's going to get you more videos like this. A lot shorter than this usually. Well, some of them. And right here at Talking Habs, where you get your daily fix of Blue Blanc Rouge. That's it. And have a great day, everybody. Please, everybody, stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. Stay at home. I just got my masks from the hockey guy. It took like a couple of weeks. I thought they weren't coming. They came in today. Maybe I'll show them on another video. And just be safe, everybody. I'll see you next video. And I think that's it. Peace out. Thanks for watching. Bye, y'all.